Christmas Eve, 2024. I'm sitting in a homeless shelter holding a number, 47. My daughter just dumped me here like garbage, in front of strangers, while holding her baby. He's not our financial responsibility anymore, she announced. This, from the woman who promised her dying mother she'd never leave me alone. I have that promise on video, every sacred word. 24 hours later, I'm holding a check for $5 million. My name is Henry Patterson. I'm 74. For 45 years, I breathed chemicals at ChemCorp Industries. Yesterday, my daughter chose her baby's college fund over her dying mother's promise. She broke a sacred oath for $1,800 a month. But before I tell you what I decided to do with that $5 million, let me know in the comments. Have you ever been betrayed by family you sacrificed everything for? Because Lisa had no idea what was coming next. But before I tell you what happened with that $5 million, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between caring for elderly parents and your own family's future? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of family betrayal and unexpected justice. Let me take you back 3 years, April 2021. Marie started losing weight. Not the good kind, the scary kind. Her clothes hung loose like drapes on a window. Her face got hollow, cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass. The doctors took one look at the scans and used words like aggressive and months, not years. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, the kind that doesn't negotiate. I slept in that hospital chair for 8 months straight. The vinyl cracked under my weight, split like old leather in summer heat. My back screamed every morning, vertebrae grinding like broken glass. But Marie needed me there when she woke up scared at 3 a.m., reaching for hands that weren't there. The nurses knew me by name. "Henry's here again," they'd whispered during shift changes. I became part of the furniture, part of Marie's life support system. Lisa came when she could. She was 29, dating David Brooks, building her own life piece by careful piece. Career advancement at her marketing firm. Weekend trips with David. Normal young adult milestones that cancer interrupted. I started recording everything during those final weeks. Marie's voice getting weaker each day, like someone slowly turning down the volume on her life. Her hands getting smaller, bones visible through paper-thin skin. I told myself it was for memories, for later, for the grandchildren she'd never meet. I didn't know I was gathering evidence. Marie's last day came December 15th, 2021. Winter had settled over Chicago like a gray blanket. Hospital windows fogged with condensation from too many tears, too much grief concentrated in sterile rooms. The machines beeped slower that morning. Marie's breathing got shallow, each inhale a conscious effort. Lisa held one hand, I held the other. Her wedding ring, loose now on her finger, caught the fluorescent light. That's when Marie made Lisa promise. I'll never forget her exact words. Neither will anyone who sees that video. "Promise me," Marie whispered. Her voice was paper-thin but clear as church bells. "Your father gave up everything for this family. 47 years in that factory. Every overtime shift, every sacrifice. He'll never ask for help, that's who he is. Too proud, too stubborn." Lisa was crying, mascara streaking down her cheeks like rain on windows. "But when he needs you, you be there. When he can't take care of himself anymore, you step up." That's what family means. Marie's oxygen monitor beeped irregularly. Her strength was fading, but her words came stronger. "Promise me you'll never leave him alone." Lisa squeezed Marie's hand tighter, so tight her knuckles went white. "I promise, Mom. I promise." I had my phone out recording. Marie wanted her final words preserved. She knew she was dying. She knew these moments would never come again. Lisa didn't mind the recording. Why would she? She meant every word that came out of her mouth. The video shows everything. Marie's hospital gown, faded blue with tiny flowers, the oxygen tubes taped to her nose. Lisa's voice strong and confident. "I promise, Mom, I'll take care of Daddy until his last breath." Marie died 2 hours later, peaceful, surrounded by love, believing her husband would never be alone. At the funeral, Lisa gave a beautiful eulogy. She talked about keeping promises, about family obligations that transcend convenience, about never abandoning the people who raised you, who sacrificed everything for your future. Everyone cried. Everyone believed her. The whole congregation knew Lisa as the devoted daughter, the one who visited during chemo treatments, who drove Marie to appointments when I was too emotional to navigate traffic, who held her mother's hand through 8 months of dying. Lisa was devoted those first 18 months after the funeral. 3 visits a week, sometimes 4. Grocery shopping every Tuesday. Medication management with pill organizers labeled for each day. Doctor appointments where she took notes and asked smart questions. When I got confused and left the stove on, she installed safety switches. When I wandered to Humboldt Park at 2 a.m., forgetting where I was, she got me a medical alert bracelet. When my blood pressure medication made me dizzy, she researched alternatives and talked to my doctor. Lisa was keeping her promise. Perfect daughter honoring her dying mother's wishes. But then Emma came along. June 2024. Lisa gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, 6 pounds, 4 ounces. Emma had Lisa's green eyes and David's stubborn chin. 10 tiny fingers that wrapped around my thumb like they were claiming ownership of my heart. I was so proud to be a grandfather. So grateful Marie and I had created someone capable of creating such perfection. This baby represented hope, future, the continuation of family love. That's when everything started changing. Maternity leave cut Lisa's income by 60%. Childcare cost $1,800 a month, more than my pension. David's insurance business was struggling after COVID. Clients were cutting back on coverage. Premiums were down. Their household income dropped from $95,000 to $70,000 overnight. Financial stress changes people, changes priorities, changes how they calculate love. I started recording everything during those final weeks. I didn't know I was gathering evidence. My health was getting worse too. The confusion episodes increased from weekly to daily. I forgot to pay the electric bill 3 months running. I burned soup on the stove, filling my apartment with smoke that triggered fire alarms. I called Lisa at 4 a.m. thinking it was 4 p.m., wondering why she hadn't visited. The doctor used words like supervised environment and safety concerns and cognitive decline, medical terms that meant my daughter's promise was about to be tested. Paradise Gardens nursing home cost $4,500 a month. My pension and Social Security covered $3,000. That left a $1,500 gap every month, $18,000 a year, nearly 30% of Lisa's reduced salary. The math was simple, Emma's future versus Grandpa's comfort, but I was about to discover something that would change everything. Let me tell you about those 45 years at ChemCorp Industries, about sacrifice that nobody calculated, about love measured in poisoned lungs and damaged dreams. 1970 to 2015, 45 years breathing chemicals that had names I couldn't pronounce, benzene, toluene, xylene, industrial solvents that soaked through safety equipment like water through paper. We wore masks, but they didn't help much. The fumes soaked through everything. Your clothes, your skin, your lungs, your future. Every day I came home smelling like a science experiment gone wrong. Marie would wash my work clothes separately, double rinse cycles, extra detergent. She worried about what those chemicals were doing to me, what they might do to her just from proximity. I told her not to worry. We needed the paycheck. We needed the health insurance. We needed the stability that factory work provided in an uncertain world. I worked overtime whenever they offered, double shifts on weekends, holiday pay when other men went home to families. Every extra dollar went toward Lisa's future. Her college fund growing $20 at a time. Her wedding savings accumulating through overtime hours. I never kept receipts for what I spent on Lisa. Why would I? You don't keep score when it comes to your children. You don't calculate return on investment for love. But if I had to guess, probably $200,000 over the years, maybe more. College tuition at Northwestern University. Books that cost more than my weekly paycheck. Dorm fees, meal plans, study abroad program in France that cost more than my car. Graduation party for 60 people. Engagement ring down payment when David proposed. Wedding costs that spiraled beyond any reasonable budget. First apartment security deposit in Lincoln Park. I mortgaged our house twice to help Lisa get started. Marie worried we were giving too much, sacrificing our retirement for someone else's beginning. I told her Lisa was our investment, our legacy. The proof that working-class people could raise children who transcended their circumstances. Those chemicals. I breathed them for decades. By 2015, I was 65 and tired. My lungs hurt when I breathed deep, like someone had filled them with broken glass. My hands shook sometimes, tremors that made writing difficult. The doctor said it was normal aging. Early retirement sounded like a gift from heaven. My pension was small, $1,200 a month after 45 years of service. Social Security added $1,800, $3,000 total. Enough for a simple life with Marie, enough for dignity if you didn't get sick. But then Marie got sick, and everything changed. Cancer treatment costs exploded past our insurance limits like a financial nuclear bomb. Experimental drugs at $5,000 per treatment. Private consultations with specialists who charged $500 to confirm what we already knew. Alternative treatments that promised hope for the price of our house. Hope costs money. Sometimes more money than you have. I started working nights again at 71 years old. Here's what Lisa never knew. From 2021 to 2024, I cleaned offices. 3 nights a week, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Mopping floors that stretched like airport runways. Emptying trash from people who made more in a day than I made in a month. Scrubbing toilets used by executives who never learned to aim properly. $15 an hour, 20 hours a week, $1,200 a month. Every penny went toward my nursing home gap. My arthritic hands gripped that mop handle until my knuckles screamed. My bad back bent over those toilets until vertebrae ground together like broken machinery. My 74-year-old body pushed through exhaustion that felt like drowning in concrete. Also, Lisa wouldn't have to choose between her father and her daughter. The irony was perfect. The cleaning made my confusion worse. Lack of sleep scrambled my already damaged brain. Physical stress accelerated cognitive decline. Chemical exposure from industrial cleaners added new toxins to lungs already scarred by 45 years of factory work. But those chemicals were killing me slowly. The other workers were younger. Immigrants mostly, sending money to families in Mexico and Guatemala and Honduras. They worked 2 or 3 jobs, supporting extended families on wages that barely covered rent. They called me Pops and shared their lunches. They respected that I was working at my age, understood the desperation that drives elderly men to push mop buckets through empty office buildings. They never asked why I was there. They never judged my shaking hands or confusion episodes. They just worked beside me in comfortable silence, united by necessity. I never told Lisa about the cleaning job. Why burden her? She was already struggling with Emma's expenses, already losing sleep over my nursing home costs, already calculating the mathematics of love versus money, pride maybe, or stupidity. I thought I was protecting her from guilt. I thought I was solving the problem without creating new problems. I was actually gathering evidence of her abandonment. Every paycheck stub was proof. Every sore muscle was documentation. Every sleepless night was evidence that I tried everything before becoming a burden. Doctor said supervised living, but who would pay? The Paradise Gardens tour in October felt like shopping for coffins. Lisa walked through those halls like she was pricing my remaining dignity. $4,500 a month. $54,000 a year. Money that could pay for Emma's private school. Money that could fund college savings accounts and family vacations and all the experiences young families deserve. I offered to help with my cleaning money. Lisa looked embarrassed, like my wages were charity from someone who should be receiving charity instead. Dad, you shouldn't be working at your age. You need rest. But she took the money anyway. Deposited my night shift earnings into her account to help cover my day shift care. That hurt more than the rejection. Taking my money while planning my abandonment. The irony would be complete soon enough. The chemicals that necessitated my cleaning job were about to make me rich. Emma's birth changed everything for Lisa and David. I understood that completely. New parents worry about money like drowning people worry about air. About the future that stretches ahead like an unpaid mortgage. About providing opportunities they never had. But understanding doesn't make betrayal hurt less. Doesn't make broken promises easier to swallow. Lisa's visits dropped from 3 times a week to once, then every other week, then monthly check-ins that felt more like welfare inspections. Phone calls got shorter, conversations felt rushed, like I was keeping her from more important obligations. David started doing the math out loud during visits, calculating my cost like I was a subscription service they were considering canceling. Dad, nursing home costs are $54,000 a year. Emma's child care is $21,600. Add formula, diapers, pediatrician visits, clothes she'll outgrow every 3 months. That's over $75,000 in care costs alone. He said it like I was a budget item, not a grandfather, not the man who'd contributed to their wedding fund, not someone who'd earned consideration through decades of sacrifice. Emma's future versus Grandpa's past. We have to think about Emma's college fund, David would continue, his insurance salesman brain calculating risks and returns. Private school runs $15,000 a year. Northwestern tuition is approaching $60,000 annually. She'll need every advantage to compete in this economy. Lisa nodded along, her father's comfort weighed against her daughter's opportunities. I watched her calculating in real time, weighing my remaining years against Emma's potential decades, choosing between honoring her mother's dying wish and securing her child's future. The Paradise Gardens tour in November made everything worse. Lisa walked through those halls like she was pricing coffins, evaluating the cost per month of keeping her promise. $4,500 a month. $54,000 a year. Money that could transform Emma's life trajectory. The activities look nice, Lisa said, watching elderly residents play cards and work puzzles. Very engaging. But her eyes were calculating. $54,000. Enough for Emma's first year at Northwestern. Enough for down payments and investments and all the financial security Lisa never had growing up. "We can't sustain this for long," Lisa whispered to David during the tour. 18 months of this will bankrupt us. Emma will suffer for decisions we make now. I offered to help with my cleaning money. Every dollar I earned scrubbing toilets and mopping floors. Lisa looked embarrassed, like accepting wages from her 74-year-old father was admitting failure. "Dad, you shouldn't be working at your age. Your health is more important than money." But she took the money anyway, deposited my night shift earnings to help cover my day shift care. The irony was bitter enough to taste. Taking money from that man whose care costs they were calculating. 18 months of this will bankrupt us. Thanksgiving 2024 brought the ultimatum. David set down his fork during dinner, cleared his throat like he was giving a sales presentation. "Lisa, we need to make a decision about your father's care. We can't keep postponing this conversation." "Not at dinner," Lisa said, glancing at me like I was an unwanted witness to my own fate. "When then? We're bleeding money. Our savings account is shrinking every month. Emma needs a college fund. We need retirement savings. Your father had 45 years to save for his own care. Your father had 45 years to save for his own care." Those words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. 45 years of overtime shifts. Double mortgages to fund Lisa's education. Every sacrifice measured in his accountant's brain as poor financial planning. I'd spent 45 years saving for Lisa's future, not my own. Every dollar that could have gone toward retirement accounts went toward her college fund instead. Every investment opportunity sacrificed for her immediate needs. "There are other options," David continued, his voice taking on the professional tone he used with insurance clients. "County facilities, state assistance programs, Medicaid will cover basic care. He qualifies for low-income support. County facilities, state programs, warehouses for forgotten elderly who'd outlived their usefulness to families focused on forward momentum." Lisa stayed quiet throughout David's presentation. That silence was her answer, her choice made without words. But Christmas would bring the ultimate test. December arrived with its false promises of family togetherness. Christmas music playing in Paradise Gardens' common areas. Decorations that reminded residents of homes they'd lost. Families who'd moved on. Promises that had been quietly abandoned. Other residents got excited about holiday family visits. Mrs. Coleman's grandchildren came every weekend, bringing homemade cookies and finger paintings from school. Mr. Rodriguez's son drove up from Atlanta with his wife and twin daughters. I waited for Lisa's call about Christmas plans. Surely the holidays would bring family time. Christmas dinner. Opening presents with Emma, who was just learning to unwrap packages. The call came December 20th. "Dad, we need to talk. Can we visit Christmas Eve? There's something important we need to discuss." I thought she meant Christmas celebration planning, family time, holiday traditions to establish with Emma's first Christmas. I was wrong. Lisa's tone carried weight I recognized. The same careful modulation she'd used when explaining Marie's terminal diagnosis. The voice people use when delivering life-changing news. "Of course," I said. "I'll be here. I'm always here." "Good. We'll see you around 2 p.m. Dad, this is..." This conversation is going to be difficult, but it's necessary. What would you do if you were in Lisa's situation? Would you honor a promise to your dying parent or protect your child's financial future? Let me know in the comments below, because this decision was about to tear my family apart forever. The waiting was torture. December 21st through 24th dragged like wounded animals. I rehearsed conversations that might happen, prepared arguments for staying at Paradise Gardens, calculated compromises that might preserve both my dignity and Lisa's budget. I practiced explaining my night cleaning job, how I was contributing, how I wasn't just a financial burden draining their resources. I didn't realize the decision had already been made. The conversation was just notification, not negotiation. Christmas Eve would bring betrayal disguised as financial necessity, a broken promise wrapped in reasonable arguments about college funds and retirement planning and responsible parenting. Marie's dying wish was about to be sacrificed on the altar of practical economics. Christmas Eve arrived carrying false hope like a wrapped gift hiding disappointment. I watched from my Paradise Gardens window as families pulled into the parking lot. Children carrying brightly wrapped presents, parents with covered casserole dishes for communal holiday meals, grandparents being helped from cars by patient adult children. The common room buzzed with holiday energy. Mrs. Coleman's family filled 3 tables, 4 generations celebrating together. Mr. Rodriguez's grandchildren chased each other around the Christmas tree, their laughter echoing off institutional walls transformed by family love. I put on my best shirt, the blue one Marie bought me for church services, pressed by Paradise Gardens laundry staff who took pride in special occasion preparation. I combed what remained of my gray hair, splashed aftershave that smelled like dignity. I was ready for family Christmas. Lisa arrived at 2 p.m. with David and baby Emma. No gifts under their arms, no smiles decorating their faces, just the business expressions people wear to difficult meetings they'd rather avoid. Emma fussed in her car seat, picking up adult tension through infant intuition. David carried her like a shield, something to occupy his hands while avoiding eye contact with the grandfather who was about to be discarded. The common room was full, 6 residents with their families, Christmas music playing softly from speakers hidden behind holiday garland, staff members trying to stay invisible while facilitating joy they couldn't afford in their own families. Mrs. Coleman looked up from her grandchildren's artwork. "Henry, your family looks lovely. Emma's getting so big." "I thought she came for Christmas visit." Lisa didn't sit down. David stayed near the door, positioning himself for quick escape. Lisa spoke directly to the head nurse, Sandy, avoiding conversation with me entirely. "We need to discuss my father's care situation," Lisa announced. Her voice carried across the room like smoke from a grease fire. Conversations paused. Silverware stopped clinking. Everyone pretended not to listen while listening completely. Sandy glanced at me, confusion creasing her professional features. We'd never had care complaints. Payment issues, yes, but nothing warranting Christmas Eve confrontations. "Is there a problem with Mr. Patterson's care?" Sandy asked carefully, her nursing training kicking in to diffuse potential family conflicts. "The problem is financial." Lisa's voice grew louder, more defensive, like someone justifying behavior they knew was wrong. "We've been covering his monthly gap, but we can't continue. We have our own family to consider now." The room went quiet except for Christmas music. Silent Night mocked us through hidden speakers, its peaceful promises contradicting the chaos unfolding in front of holiday witnesses. Everyone staring, whispering, judging. Mr. Rodriguez's son looked shocked. Mrs. Coleman's daughter-in-law whispered something behind her hand to her sister. The visiting grandchildren stared at the adult drama interrupting their holiday celebration. I sat silent, hands folded in my lap, dignity intact despite circumstances spiraling beyond control. What could I say? She was right. They couldn't afford me. I was a financial burden requiring choices between grandfather and granddaughter. "I understand, sweetheart, but I was recording everything on my phone. Secretly, under the table, the same way I'd recorded Marie's promise 3 years ago, evidence gathering disguised as nervous fidgeting. "I understand these are difficult decisions," Sandy said diplomatically. "Would you like to discuss options privately, perhaps in my office?" "No need," Lisa said, her lawyer voice taking over. "It's straightforward. We can't afford his care here anymore. Our family has other priorities now. Other priorities. She said it like I was a luxury service they were canceling. Cable television, gym membership. The grandfather they'd decided was no longer cost-effective. What are our options? Lisa asked Sandy, treating me like I wasn't sitting 3 feet away. Like I was a problem to be solved rather than a person to be considered. Sandy looked uncomfortable. These conversations usually happen privately, not in front of holiday crowds bearing witness to family failures. Well, there are county facilities, Sandy said carefully. State assistance programs. But there's usually a waiting list during holiday periods. How long for the city shelter? City shelter. The words hit the room like a bomb detonating. Mrs. Coleman gasped audibly. Someone's grandchild asked, "Mommy, what's a shelter?" A Paradise Garden staff member dropped a water glass, crystal shattering against linoleum like my remaining dignity. "Lisa," I said quietly, "you don't have to do this." "Not on Christmas Eve, not in front of everyone." "Yes, I do." Her voice cracked slightly, betraying the internal conflict she was trying to suppress. "We can't sacrifice Emma's future for this, for me, for the man who'd worked 45 years to fund her education, for the father who'd cleaned toilets at 74 so she wouldn't carry financial burden, for the promise she'd made to her dying mother. How could she do this?" Mrs. Coleman stood up from her family table. "This is disgraceful. On Christmas Eve, in front of your baby daughter, this is how you honor your mother's memory?" Lisa whirled around, eyes blazing with defensive fury. "This is none of your business. You don't understand our situation." "I understand a daughter abandoning her father," Mrs. Coleman shot back, her 82-year-old voice carrying more strength than Lisa's 32-year-old justifications. "I understand breaking promises to dying mothers." The room went dead silent. Christmas music continued playing, but every conversation stopped. Every eye focused on the drama unfolding between tables decorated with holiday centerpieces. Lisa's face went white. "You don't know anything about my mother." "I know she'd be ashamed," Mrs. Coleman said simply. Mrs. Coleman's shocked whisper, "How could she do this?" Sandy tried to regain control. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately." "No," Lisa interrupted. "It's decided. Can someone arrange transportation to the shelter today? We can't. I can't do it myself. Can't do it herself. Can't face the physical act of driving her father to a homeless shelter on Christmas Eve. Can't complete the abandonment personally while maintaining any pretense of family love." David shifted Emma to his other arm, his discomfort visible to everyone watching. "Maybe we should discuss this at home, honey." "No, it's decided." Lisa turned back to Sandy. "How quickly can this be arranged?" Sandy looked around the room helplessly. All these witnesses to family breakdown, all these holiday celebrations interrupted by betrayal dressed as financial necessity. "The Salvation Army shelter accepts walk-ins," Sandy said reluctantly. "But Mr. Patterson, this is Christmas Eve. Surely there's another solution." "There isn't," Lisa said firmly. "Emma needs her college fund more than he needs comfort. This is what's best for our family. Our family." The phrase excluded me entirely. I was no longer part of the family equation, just an expensive obstacle to their financial planning. She left me there, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. Lisa grabbed David's arm. "We're leaving. Sandy, please arrange transportation within the hour." They walked toward the exit. Baby Emma fussed as they pushed through doors, sensing adult tension through infant awareness. David looked back once, guilt written across his insurance salesman features. I was still recording. Every word of family betrayal, every witness to broken promises, every moment of sacred oaths shattered on Christmas Eve in front of strangers who understood family loyalty better than my own daughter. The room stayed quiet for a long time after they left. Christmas music played on, but the holiday spirit had been murdered by financial calculations disguised as responsible parenting. Finally, Mrs. Coleman came over and sat beside me. Her grandchildren watched curiously as she took my hand. "I'm sorry, Henry. That was wrong, completely wrong. She has her own family now," I said. "I understand her position. But understanding and forgiving are different things, and that video was still recording every echo of broken promises in a room full of witnesses who knew the difference between family obligation and family love. The Salvation Army shelter smelled like disinfectant and defeat. Industrial soap couldn't quite mask the sense of too many men living too close together. unwashed clothes that carried stories of economic collapse, cafeteria food that tasted like survival, desperation that soaked through concrete walls like humidity, Christmas Eve at 6 p.m., while families gathered around dinner tables loaded with traditional meals and children opened presents under trees decorated with love. I sat on a military surplus cot with a thin blanket and a plastic wristband. Hash 47, bed 47, Henry Patterson, age 74, former factory worker, former father, current homeless statistics. The man on cot 46 was maybe 50, Vietnam veteran with haunted eyes and hands that shook from memories or withdrawal or both. "First time?" he asked, his voice carrying the wisdom of someone who'd been abandoned before. "Yeah." "Gets easier," he said, studying my face with professional assessment. "The shame, I mean. Eventually you stop feeling it. You learn to expect disappointment instead of hoping for love. 45 years of work led to this. I didn't want the shame to stop. I wanted it to burn like acid in my chest. I wanted to remember exactly how it felt to be abandoned by my own daughter on Christmas Eve. I wanted to memorize the look on Mrs. Coleman's face when Lisa announced her priorities. The whispers, the judgment, the shock of strangers who understood family loyalty better than my own blood. I wanted to remember Lisa's voice saying other priorities, so I'd never forget the precise moment she chose money over promises. Around me, homeless men tried to sleep despite fluorescent lights that never fully dimmed. Some snored through exhaustion. Some muttered conversations with invisible companions. Some stared at water-stained ceiling tiles like I did, wondering how their lives had led them to numbered cots in charity warehouses. My phone buzzed with a text message from Lisa. "Sorry it had to be this way. We'll check on you after the holidays. Take care of yourself." After the holidays. After her family enjoyed Christmas morning in their warm suburban house with their healthy bank account. After Emma opened presents that cost more than my monthly pension. After Lisa posted family photos on social media showing holiday happiness built on abandoned promises. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Thanks for keeping your mother's dying wish for 3 whole years before financial convenience trumped family obligation? Instead, I opened that video from Marie's hospital room. December 15th, 2021, 3:47 p.m. 4 minutes and 23 seconds of my wife's final words. Marie's voice weak but clear as mountain spring water. "Promise me you'll never leave him alone." Lisa's response captured in digital permanence. "I promise, Mom, I promise." Marie deserved better, and so do I. I played it again and again, watching my daughter swear an oath to her dying mother with tears streaming down her face, an oath she'd just broken in front of a room full of strangers while holding the granddaughter Marie would never meet. The weight of betrayal settled in my chest like a physical thing, heavy and cold and permanent. But something else was settling too, something that felt like clarity born from absolute bottom. I remembered the lawyer's card in my wallet. James Morrison from Morrison & Associates, class action lawsuits, chemical exposure cases. He'd called me 6 months ago about some ChemCorp settlement, left voicemails I'd forgotten to return. Old men forget things. But lying on that shelter cot, listening to broken men breathe through broken dreams, I remembered every detail of Morrison's message. December 25th, settlement might be finalized. Christmas morning might bring more than just shame and shelter breakfast. It might bring justice disguised as legal compensation. It might bring power measured in dollars instead of dependence. I thought about Marie lying in that hospital bed, trusting her daughter with her husband's future. About the promises we make to dying people because we believe family bonds transcend financial convenience. About daughters who choose college funds over dying mothers' wishes. Lisa thought she was protecting Emma's future by abandoning expensive promises. But what kind of future builds on betrayal? What kind of mother teaches her daughter that family obligations are optional when they become inconvenient? Christmas morning would bring a miracle, but not the kind she expected. I closed my eyes and planned. If Morrison's settlement money materialized, Lisa would learn something about consequences, about the cost of breaking sacred promises, about what happens when you abandon the wrong person at exactly the wrong time. The video of her promise would matter more than she ever imagined. Christmas morning, 6:47 a.m. My phone rang while homeless men around me stirred awake to another day of systematic abandonment, by families who'd moved on to more convenient relationships. Mr. Patterson, this is James Morrison from Morrison and Associates. I hope you don't mind me calling on Christmas, but I have extraordinary news that couldn't wait. I sat up on the shelter cot, military surplus springs creaking like old bones. Around me, temporary residents began their morning routines of dignity maintenance in circumstances designed to strip dignity away. The ChemCorp class action settlement was approved yesterday evening. Final signatures, final judicial approval. Mr. Patterson, you're entitled to substantial compensation for 45 years of chemical exposure. My hand gripped the phone like a lifeline. How much compensation are we discussing? $5 million, Mr. Patterson. Your exposure level was classified as severe based on employment records and medical documentation. Your neurological symptoms qualified you for the highest compensation tier, $5 million. The irony tasted like copper pennies in justice. From homeless to millionaire in 24 hours. The same chemicals that damaged my brain, that made me confused and vulnerable, that gave Lisa her excuse to abandon expensive promises. Those chemicals had just made me rich beyond any calculation she'd made about college funds and retirement planning. Chemical-induced neurological damage equals higher payout tier. Mr. Patterson, are you still there? I'm here. I'm just processing this information. What do I need to do? Come to First National Bank this morning, downtown branch. We've arranged for holiday processing because of the settlement size. Bring identification and meet me at 10 a.m. The check will be cut immediately. I hung up and looked around the shelter. Men waking up to another day of nothing. Another day of being forgotten by families who found them too expensive to love. Another day of dignity measured in donated meals and charity clothing. But not me. Not anymore. From homeless to millionaire in 24 hours. First National Bank opened special holiday hours for settlement processing. James Morrison met me at the security entrance with guards who treated me like someone important instead of someone disposable. They escorted me to a private banking room with leather chairs and mahogany tables. Real coffee in china cups, not paper containers filled with charity caffeine. The check was larger than normal banking instruments. Official bank letterhead, security watermarks, multiple signatures. $5 million written in numbers and spelled out in words that lawyers had spent months negotiating. The settlement is completely tax-free, Morrison explained, spreading documents across polished wood. Compensation for pain and suffering, medical damages, lost quality of life. You can deposit this immediately with no federal obligations. My hands shook holding it. $5 million. More money than I'd made in 45 years of chemical exposure. More money than Lisa had calculated in all her spreadsheets about college funds and nursing home costs. What will you do with it, Mr. Patterson? I thought about Marie lying in that hospital bed, trusting her daughter with sacred promises, about Lisa's voice on Christmas Eve announcing her other priorities in front of strangers, about broken oaths and calculated abandonment. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I want to establish a charitable foundation immediately, the Marie Patterson Memorial Foundation, specifically for elderly people abandoned by their families who chose financial convenience over family obligation. Morrison nodded approvingly. Very admirable philanthropic goal. We can expedite the paperwork. I want it done quickly, and I want to announce it publicly. Local news interviews, television coverage of the donation. Of course, charitable announcements often attract significant media attention, especially donations of this magnitude. Perfect. Schedule it for this week. I have a very personal story I want to share with the community about family responsibility and the cost of broken promises. The paperwork took 4 hours. Foundation documents establishing tax-exempt status. Board of Directors paperwork where I appointed myself sole decision-maker. Legal structures ensuring every dollar would help people whose children had found them too expensive to love. $5 million donated entirely to help people like me. People whose families had calculated their worth in monthly expenses and found them lacking. People whose promises had been broken by offspring who confused financial planning with family planning. But the real power wasn't in the money itself. The real power was in the story I was about to tell, the video evidence I was about to share, the public exposure of family betrayal disguised as responsible parenting. TV station confirms interview. Channel 7 News called that afternoon. Mr. Patterson, we understand you're making a significant charitable donation. Our viewers would love to hear about this generous gift during our holiday programming. Yes, I'd very much like that opportunity. I have quite a story to tell about family promises and what they should mean to people who make them. Wonderful. Can you come in tomorrow evening at 5 p.m.? We'll broadcast live during our 6 o'clock news program when families are watching together. Families watching together. The timing was perfect. I'll be there, and I'll bring video evidence to share about exactly why this donation matters and what inspired it. Lisa would be watching. She always watched local news during Emma's dinner time, background noise while she fed strained carrots and pureed vegetables to the granddaughter who would never know her great-grandmother's dying wishes. She would see her father on television, announcing a $5 million charitable donation. Money that existed while she calculated nursing home costs. Money that was available while she chose college funds over family promises. She would see the video of her oath to Marie. Her sacred promise broadcast to thousands of viewers who understood family loyalty better than she did. She would understand, finally, what she had thrown away on Christmas Eve, what she had sacrificed for $18,000 a year. The whole city would understand what kind of daughter breaks promises to dying mothers for money that didn't even matter in the end. The legal paperwork felt like performing surgery on family relationships, precise cuts that severed every connection between Lisa and my future. Each signature a small act of justice for promises broken and trust betrayed. Morrison's Law Office, 9 a.m. Monday morning. I want to change my will completely. Remove Lisa Patterson Brooks as beneficiary. Remove her as emergency contact. Remove her as medical power of attorney. Morrison's eyebrows raised slightly. This is quite comprehensive, Mr. Patterson. These changes are essentially permanent. Are you certain you want to proceed? I'm certain. Replace her name with the Marie Patterson Memorial Foundation as sole beneficiary of all assets, accounts, and legal decisions. Power of attorney to foundation, medical directive change. Signature after signature. Each one severing another legal tie to the daughter who'd abandoned me for financial convenience. Each one transferring power from someone who broke promises to an organization dedicated to helping people whose promises had been broken. Life insurance beneficiary changes, Morrison continued, reviewing documents with professional thoroughness. Currently, $100,000 death benefit goes to Lisa Patterson Brooks. Where would you like that redirected? The foundation. Every dollar. Bank accounts, investment accounts, pension beneficiaries, any remaining personal assets. Foundation, all of it. I want Lisa to inherit exactly what she gave me on Christmas Eve. Nothing. Lisa thought she was protecting Emma's inheritance by dumping me at that shelter. She didn't realize she was destroying it completely. Every dollar she might have inherited was now dedicated to helping elderly people whose children had abandoned them, erasing Lisa from legal existence. The afternoon brought different surgery, personal belongings, lifetime accumulations, 47 years of marriage memories sorted into categories: keep, donate, destroy. I kept Marie's wedding ring, worn thin from decades of faithful wear. Her favorite photograph from our 1975 honeymoon in Niagara Falls, both of us young and believing love conquered everything. The video of her final promise, digital evidence of trust betrayed. Everything else went to charity organizations that understood gratitude. Clothes to the Salvation Army, where homeless men would appreciate quality fabric. Furniture to Goodwill, where struggling families would furnish homes with items Lisa had deemed too expensive to preserve. Kitchen items to Catholic charities. Books to the public library, tools to Habitat for Humanity. Strangers would benefit from my possessions, people who understood that gifts come without calculations attached, keeping only Marie's photo and wedding ring. The estate sale company arrived Thursday morning, professional, efficient, emotionless. They packed 47 years of marriage into labeled boxes and carried everything away to benefit people who understood gratitude over entitlement. I watched from the apartment window as they loaded the last box. 47 years of partnership, 29 years of fatherhood, all of it donated because my daughter had chosen college funds over sacred promises. "Where will you be residing, Mr. Patterson?" the crew chief asked, consulting paperwork on his clipboard. "Sunset Manor. It's luxury senior living, but the kind where families visit willingly instead of calculating monthly costs. Sunset Manor cost $6,000 monthly, twice what Paradise Gardens charged. Private apartments with full kitchens, concierge services, activities that enriched life instead of simply warehousing it, community that respected dignity instead of managing decline. I could afford the premium rent now, easily, for the rest of my life without affecting the Foundation's mission. From homeless shelter to luxury suite. The irony was mathematically perfect. Lisa had abandoned me to save $1,500 monthly. Now I was spending $6,000 monthly on care she would never have to provide. Luxury accommodations funded by the chemical exposure that created my vulnerability, and loving every expensive minute of it. Sunset Manor welcomed me like family. Real family, not the kind that calculated value in spreadsheets and found relationships wanting when expenses exceeded convenience. "Mr. Patterson, we're so pleased you chose our community," the director said, walking me through apartments that felt like homes instead of medical facilities. "We understand you're establishing a charitable foundation?" "Yes, the Henry Patterson Memorial Foundation, specifically for elderly people whose families have abandoned them for financial reasons." "How wonderful. We'd be honored to partner with you on that mission. Many of our residents have experienced family situations that would benefit from your foundation's support. Partnership, respect, dignity. Everything I'd lost at Paradise Gardens when my daughter made her Christmas Eve announcement. Everything I was purchasing back with settlement money that transformed suffering into service. Final interview preparation. Friday afternoon brought confirmation calls from Channel 7 News. "Mr. Patterson, we'll go live at 6 p.m. Monday evening. Are you prepared to discuss your charitable donation and the personal story behind it?" "More than prepared. I have video evidence and a very personal account about why this foundation matters to families dealing with elder care decisions." "Excellent. And you mentioned you have video documentation?" "Yes, from my wife's deathbed 3 years ago, about promises and family responsibility and what happens when people break sacred oaths for money. I think your viewers will find it very educational." "Perfect. We'll see you at 5:30 for technical setup." I practiced my statement in the bathroom mirror, calm, dignified, factual. Let the video speak for itself. Let Lisa's own words from Marie's hospital room condemn her choices. The whole city was about to learn what happened when daughters broke promises to dying mothers. What happened when families chose financial convenience over family commitment. The whole city was about to see who Lisa really was. Should I have warned Lisa about the settlement money? Or was public humiliation exactly what she deserved for breaking her sacred promise? Comment your thoughts, because the TV interview was about to expose family betrayal to an entire city. Channel 7 News Studio, Monday evening, 5:45 p.m. Most families were gathering for dinner, children finishing homework, parents catching up on local events that affected their community. I sat in the interview chair wearing my best suit, Marie's wedding ring on a chain around my neck where I could feel its weight against my heart. The video file was loaded on the station's computer system, ready to broadcast my daughter's promise to thousands of viewers. "Good evening. I'm Sarah Martinez with Channel 7 News. Tonight we have an inspiring story of generosity during our holiday season. Local resident Henry Patterson is donating $5 million to establish a foundation for elderly care. Mr. Patterson, tell us about this incredible gift." Live news interview announces $5 million donation. "Thank you, Sarah. This foundation is named for my late wife, Henry Patterson. She died 3 years ago with a very specific concern about elderly people being abandoned by their families when care becomes expensive or inconvenient. That's unfortunately a growing concern in our community. What inspired this particular donation of $5 million? "Let me show you something," I said, looking directly into the camera lens. "This is a video recording from Marie's deathbed. Her final words to our daughter about family responsibility and promises that should never be broken." The studio monitors filled with Marie's image, hospital bed, oxygen tubes, the unmistakable setting of final moments between mother and daughter. Marie's voice filled the newsroom, weak but crystal clear. "Promise me you'll never leave him alone. Your father gave up everything for this family. 47 years in that factory. Every overtime shift, every sacrifice. When he needs you, you be there. Promise me you'll never leave him alone." Then Lisa's voice. Strong, certain, Unbreakable. I promise, Mom. I promise. Marie's voice on TV. Promise me you'll never leave him alone. Sarah Martinez's professional composure cracked slightly. Even experienced journalists weren't prepared for the raw emotion of deathbed promises broadcast live. That's very moving, Mr. Patterson. When was this recorded? December 15th, 2021, 3 years ago. My daughter Lisa made that sacred promise to her dying mother. Every word you just heard. And this inspired your foundation? Actually, what inspired it was what happened Christmas Eve, 6 days ago. I told the story simply, factually. No editorial commentary, just chronological events. Lisa's announcement at Paradise Gardens, the witnesses, the stranger's shock, the shelter transportation arranged like waste disposal, public revelation of Christmas Eve betrayal. My daughter told nursing home staff that I wasn't her financial responsibility anymore. She arranged for me to be transported to a homeless shelter on Christmas Eve, in front of other residents and their families who were celebrating together. Sarah's eyes widened with professional interest and personal shock. This was after she promised her dying mother she'd never leave you alone? After promising her dying mother. Yes, 3 years and 10 days after making that sacred oath. Lisa at home, watching horror unfold. At Lisa's suburban house, David was feeding Emma strained peas while the evening news played in the background. Routine dinner, routine evening, routine family time, until Lisa glanced at the television screen and saw her father sitting in a professional interview chair. $5 million to establish a foundation. The baby spoon clattered to the floor. Emma's dinner splattered across her high chair tray. $5 million? David said, stopping mid-feeding motion. Your father has $5 million? Where did $5 million come from? Then Marie's voice filled their living room. The deathbed scene, the hospital setting, words Lisa had tried to suppress for 3 years. Promise me you'll never leave him alone. I promise, Mom. I promise. Lisa's face drained of color like someone had opened a valve. Turn it off. Turn it off right now. Are you insane? David exploded, reaching for the remote to increase volume instead of decreasing it. Your father just announced a $5 million donation, money that existed while we were calculating nursing home costs, money that was available when we dumped him at a homeless shelter. $5 million existed while she abandoned him. The interview continued on screen, Henry's calm voice describing Christmas Eve abandonment, the broken promise, the witnesses, the shame of family betrayal witnessed by strangers. David turned to stare at Lisa like he was seeing her for the first time. You promised your dying mother you'd never leave him alone, and then you abandoned him, while he had $5 million. I didn't know about the money, Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible over Emma's confused crying. That's not the point. David's insurance salesman calm shattered completely. The point is, you broke your sacred promise, your dying mother's final wish. For what? To save money that didn't even matter. David. Lisa, that's your father. That's your promise. The television interview was ending. Henry thanked viewers for their attention, provided the foundation's contact information, encouraged people to honor their elderly family members while they still could, because promises matter, he said, looking directly into the camera with eyes that had seen betrayal and chosen justice, especially promises made to the dying. The phone started ringing immediately. Friends who'd seen the broadcast, neighbors who recognized Lisa's father, co-workers who understood exactly what they'd witnessed. Lisa let every call go to voicemail. Message after message accumulated, each one a judgment, each one a question about how she could abandon her father on Christmas Eve after promising her dying mother she wouldn't. Mrs. Coleman called from Paradise Gardens. Lisa, dear, we saw your father on the news. Such a generous, dignified man. Such a good heart. After what happened Christmas Eve, well, we're all very proud of him. Very proud indeed. Phone calls from witnesses, neighbors, co-workers. Social media exploded within minutes. Screenshots of Henry's interview. Video clips of Marie's deathbed promise. Comments about daughters who broke sacred oaths for money. About families who abandoned their elderly when care became expensive. Lisa's phone buzzed with notifications, Facebook comments, text messages from family friends, tagged posts asking, "Isn't this your father?" with links to news coverage. David bounced Emma, trying to calm her crying while processing the magnitude of Lisa's betrayal. "Lisa, you destroyed our family. You broke your promise to your dying mother, and you did it for money that was completely irrelevant." Failed reconciliation attempt. "I was trying to protect Emma's future," Lisa sobbed. "By breaking promises to the dead? By abandoning your father on Christmas? What kind of future builds on betrayal?" The evening news ran the story 2 more times. Each broadcast reached new audiences. Each one spread the word about Lisa Patterson Brooks, the daughter who chose college fund calculations over dying mother's wishes. Emma continued crying, sensing adult devastation even through infant awareness. David held his daughter while staring at his wife like she was a stranger. But the story wasn't over. 6 months later, the Marie Patterson Memorial Foundation was transforming elderly care across 3 states. 200 abandoned seniors housed in dignity, legal aid programs fighting elder abuse, emergency funding for people whose children had found them too expensive to love. I sat in my Sunset Manor apartment, morning sunlight streaming through windows that actually opened. Real coffee brewing in my own kitchen, not institutional caffeine served at scheduled times. Meals I chose from menus I helped design. On my mahogany desk sat Marie's photograph from our 1975 honeymoon. Beside it, the empty chair from Paradise Gardens that staff had given me when I donated money for facility improvements. That chair represented everything I'd reclaimed. Dignity, choice, respect. The difference between being warehoused and being valued. Marie's legacy. Helping others. Promise kept to her memory. The Foundation's quarterly report lay open beside Marie's photo. 200 families served. Legal victories against neglectful relatives. Emergency housing for abandoned seniors. Sunset Manor expansion funded to accommodate people whose adult children had chosen financial convenience over family loyalty. Every dollar originated from chemical exposure settlements. Suffering transformed into service. Industrial poison converted to human purpose. Justice measured in dignity restored rather than revenge achieved. Marie would be proud. Her final promise had protected thousands of people whose children had broken similar promises. My laptop displayed the Foundation's newsletter draft. This month's theme, The Weight of Sacred Promises. Foundation impact, 200 abandoned elderly helped. Lisa had attempted contact through 17 different channels over 6 months. Letters to the Foundation's legal department, messages through her church pastor, attempts through mutual acquaintances who didn't understand the permanent nature of broken sacred oaths. Once she'd even appeared at Sunset Manor's reception desk, demanding to see her father. Security had escorted her out while I watched from my apartment window. The lawyer's response was always identical. All communication regarding Mr. Patterson must be submitted in writing to the Foundation's legal department. She wrote letters. Long emotional explanations, defending her position, justifying her choices. Apologizing for her methods while maintaining her decisions were necessary. I read every letter, filed them chronologically, never responded. No forgiveness, no second chances. Because promises to dying people transcend financial calculations. Sacred oaths aren't suggestions that expire when circumstances become expensive. Break them, and you break something that cannot be repaired through letters or explanations or regret. Mrs. Coleman visited last Tuesday, still sharp at 82, still angry about Christmas Eve betrayal. "That daughter of yours calls Paradise Gardens asking about you," she reported over afternoon tea. "Wants to know how you're doing, whether you're happy." What do you tell her? The truth. You're thriving. You're helping hundreds of people. You're living with dignity. And you're doing it all without her. Empty nursing home chair, symbol of dignity reclaimed. The afternoon sun slanted across my apartment where elderly residents played cards in gardens designed for joy rather than management. Outside, families visited willingly, enriching relationships instead of enduring them. I opened my laptop and finished the newsletter. When someone is dying, their final requests carry sacred weight. These promises represent lifetimes of love condensed into last wishes. Breaking them doesn't just harm the deceased, it damages the soul of the promise breaker. The Marie Patterson Memorial Foundation exists because a daughter broke her dying mother's final wish. But from betrayal came purpose. From broken promises came hundreds of kept commitments. We cannot undo broken promises, but we can honor the memory of those who died believing family meant more than financial convenience, because promises matter, especially promises to the dying. And some things, once broken, stay broken forever. I saved the document and spoke to Marie's photograph like I did every evening. 3 more families helped this week, honey. Your promise keeps other promises alive. Outside, real families visited elderly relatives. Families who understood that love isn't calculated in spreadsheets. Families who keep expensive promises, especially expensive ones. I kept my promise to Marie by keeping my promise to myself.